participants haven't turned on their cameras. Please do join us in the photo sessions, and all of the photo will be posted online at our website. Currently, we have 45 participants. Okay, let's start. Let me count 2, 3, and please smile. This is the first shot. 1, 2, 3, smile, please. And this is the second shot. 1, 2, 3, smile, please. And this is the last shot. 1, 2, 3, smile, please. Thank you, everyone. Well, my name, to officially reintroduce myself, my name is Fat. I am a program officer at International Development Department at CML Retract, and I will be the moderator of today's session. Let me start by giving you a brief information about our online training program. This program constitutes of 4 modules, such as Module 1, Educational Leadership and Management. This has been finished in May and June. Module 2, Teachers, Leadership and Management. This would start. 3, about curriculum, instructions and assessment, and Module 4 about soft skills. Each module would have 4 topics, and will first of all our participants about the delay of the July and June and August sessions due to the COVID-19 in Vietnam. It proved to be difficulties for us to conduct such an online training program. The second, I believe many of you still haven't received the certificate of participation of the June sessions, and because it's our third-party fault, and we will take note on that, and probably will send you together with this session's certificate. Today, we will resume the program with the Module 2, Teachers, Leadership and Management. The 2 topics of today module will be Teachers, Leadership in a Multicultural Environment, and the role of the teachers in the post-pandemic education. So before we start, I would like to mention a little housekeeping. Our webinar is a video recorded, so please watch and listen to the video. It only takes less than 30 minutes. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A panel or the chat box if you are using YouTube platform. After the presentation, we will have time for questions, and I will bring them up to Dr. Anita, our trainer, to address each question. Dr. Anita Klapano-Oplina, our presenter today, obtains a doctorate degree in education, planning and management in the Philippines. She has been in the field of education and engaged in administrative functions back in the Philippines. She was the assistant of the academic vice president of Xavier University in 2014, and the dean of faculty and academic affairs at FINMA, Carayan de Oro College in 2015 to 2017. She came back to CML Retract in 2019 as a senior education specialist, and she has been working as curriculum developer, instructional material designer, trainer, researcher, and lecturer. She is very passionate to advance the leadership and management skills of school leaders, managers, and administrators and teachers in Southeast Asia. So I will turn over to our presenters, Dr. Anita, to have a few words with you before we start.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Mr. Fat. And to our dear participants, welcome back to our online training program. Truly, we missed you a lot. As has been already said, we have been called off our session for 2 months. And I'm happy to see you back. And I also would like to welcome our new participants who are with us today. Thank you for coming and joining us. As already mentioned, our webinar, our online training session is recorded video. So at this point in time, I would like you to listen and watch the video. As mentioned also, there are 2 topics that we are going to have for our session today. So the first topic is teacher leadership in multicultural environment. That's supposed to be topic 5 because we are done with already the 4 topics, which is under the module 1. Now we are starting now module 2, which is consisting again of 4 topics. And this is our first session for module 2. So each session has 2 topics. We know that. So the topics that we're going to handle today are topics 5 and 6. As said already, topic 5 is leadership in multicultural environment, and topic 6 is the role of teachers in post-pandemic education. This is a video recorded, so I will invite you to listen and watch the video, and I will be delighted if there will be some sharing of ideas, thoughts, experiences, and answer your questions if there are questions after watching the video. So let us now listen and watch the first video. Hello everyone. Welcome to Module 2, Teacher Leadership and Management. Today, we will be discussing the first 2 topics of Module 2, topics 5 and 6. Topic 5 is teacher leadership in multicultural environment, and topic 6 is the role of the teacher in post-pandemic education. Let us begin with topic 5, teacher leadership in multicultural environment. I include 3 key points into my presentation as follows. 1. What is teacher leadership? 2. How can teacher leadership be manifested in multicultural environment? And 3. How can a teacher in multicultural environment enhance teaching and learning across cultures? What is teacher leadership? Teacher leadership is a process. Teacher leaders are the professionals who carry through with this process to lead change in their schools for the benefit of all students. Teacher leaders step outside their classroom doors and accept the challenges to improve their practice through working with colleagues, school administration, and professional staff, as well as students and their families. One of the confusions in defining teacher leadership and identifying teacher leaders is that leadership is not found in a position or title. In most schools, there are teachers who are the designated leaders of their grade level teams or departments, but being named a team leader is not the same as being a teacher leader. Teacher leaders exemplify certain defining characteristics. While all teachers possess several of these traits, only teacher leaders consistently and simultaneously integrate them into teacher leadership.
Debra Meyer, a professor of education at Elmhurst University and a former classroom teacher in Mesa, Arizona, points out the six teacher leader traits. 1. Experts. 2. Exceptional communicators. 3. Change agents. 4. Inspirational leaders. 5. Trustworthy colleagues. And 6. Explorers. Experts. Teacher leaders share their expertise. Expertise may come in the form of knowledge and skills about specific content, that is, mathematics, social emotional learning, or teaching skills, that is, teaching with technology, questioning strategies. Their expertise may also come in the form of leadership skills, like helping teams build consensus, making data driven decisions. At the same time, they are sharing their expertise. Teacher leaders are acquiring expertise as they pursue professional development to help them solve problems their teams have identified. They seek to learn from their colleagues, believing that the collective knowledge of the group is essential to successful teaching and student learning. Expert teachers are not always teacher leaders. However, building expertise is essential to becoming a teacher leader. The National Board for Professional Teaching Standards supports teachers working to improve their instructional prowess. For many teachers, National Board certification is an important step in becoming a teacher leader. In the Philippines, we have LET, licensure examination for teachers. Exceptional communicators. Teacher leaders are excellent communicators. A key teacher leadership skill is the ability to prioritize listening over speaking and seeking to understand different perspectives. Teacher leaders clarify, probe, and synthesize ideas and questions to understand the concerns and leverage the expertise of others. They also strive to establish open communication where all ideas are heard and all possibilities explored. Teacher leaders want to solve problems by getting a group to think outside of the box. One of the essential qualities of their communication is honesty. Teacher leaders communicate in ways that are professional and truthful, reflecting what is working and what isn't. They acknowledge where mistakes have occurred and where changes are needed rather than avoid difficult conversations. The Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, ASCD, is a professional resource for leadership, which I recommend exploring, though some of the articles can only be read with a subscription. Change agents. While most teachers are experts and have effective communication skills, teacher leaders differentiate themselves by being change agents. They take up initiatives and work to make them successful. Education is a professional field that is constantly being reformed and reacting to social, economic, and political changes. This continuous change makes being a teacher exciting and exhausting, and it is why teacher leadership is so important. Every school needs teacher leaders who will lean in when change happens. Changes may stem from a school district's administration, the principal, the superintendent, the school board, or from a state mandate such as new state or federal law. Change also may be needed within a grade level team or a department and be focused on helping a particular group of students. Teacher leaders themselves might initiate change based on evidence that things need to be done in a different way, When teachers are change agents, they are leading a transformation in their schools or their local and professional communities by supporting and inspiring up next others to make changes that will have a meaningful and positive impact for students. Inspirational leaders. People in educational leadership are familiar with the concept of transformational leader. Transformational leaders work with others to problem solve and implement and monitor strategic initiatives. They inspire everyone to be their very best because a transformational leader believes that everyone has important contributions to make and that everyone needs to be involved. Inspiration is at the core of transformational leadership, and it is not easy to master. One of the resources I like to use to explore leadership models is Mind Tools. Although this website is for business leaders, many of the models apply to education. A word of caution: the phrases transformational teaching and transformational teacher leadership are not the same. Transformational teachers inspire within their classrooms, and transformational teacher leaders inspire outside their classroom doors. Inspirational teacher leaders get their colleagues to step up, not because they feel they have to, but because they want to. They take risks, solve complex problems, and position change as possible and worthwhile. The inspirational role of teacher leaders is critical and often overlooked. Because teacher leaders are colleagues, not supervisors, successful leadership depends on other teachers wanting to follow their lead. Trustworthy colleagues. To be a teacher leader, others must trust you enough to follow your lead. Teacher leaders build trust through what they do and say, as well as what they don't. Megan Shannon Moran and Anita Wolf Hoy explained that trust between teachers involved 5 core qualities. 1. Benevolence. They share their confidence that others will act with goodwill. 2. Competence. They share their belief that the group has the ability to be successful. 3. Honesty. They communicate and act in authentic and equitable ways. 4. Openness. They share information even if it shows their personal vulnerabilities. And 5. Reliability. They always do what they say they will do. Trustworthiness is important across all aspects of teacher leadership, and engendering confidence in others is key to being a transformational leader. Competence is part of shared expertise. Honesty is essential in effective communication. Openness is seen in the willingness and ability to explore new possibilities. And reliability is essential to all these parts of the teacher leadership process because no one follows an unreliable leader. I would like to iterate that teacher leadership is a professional process. Teacher leadership is a set of roles bundled with the motivation to inspire educational change and move beyond the status quo in collaborative ways. Teacher leaders lead alongside us from the front. They have their feet firmly planted in the classroom and their eyes on what is possible for all. Keeping teacher leadership in mind, let's move to the second key point of my presentation. How can teacher leadership be manifested in multicultural environment? Leading multicultural classrooms begin with self-reflection. Teachers should question their expectations for students of different identities and reflect on how those expectations affect how they engage in the pedagogy. Ask, am I meeting the needs of all of the learners in my space? What biases do I have? What stereotypes might I be bringing to the table? How can I lead in a multicultural classroom to enhance student learning? Here are some tips for leading in the multicultural classrooms. 1. Build relationships with students. Students really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. To nurture relationships with students, teachers should strive to have conversations with students outside of the classroom and curriculum. That might include taking time at the beginning of the class for students to share their celebrations with the group. Approach students with curiosity. Consider how students' backgrounds may affect their performance. For example, you don't understand why some students were so sleepy during your classes until you found out they were fasting for religious holidays. If you had taken an approach of punishment and not learning, those students might have had a different experience. 3. Foster a growth mindset in your classroom. A growth mindset is helping kids understand that the abilities they have can be improved with dedication and hard work. That they are just going through a stage of developing and improving. Setting small incremental goals can help students succeed and see progress as they learn. Growth mindset really plays into that because it's helping them understand that through hard work and dedication, they can achieve bigger tasks in small increments and small steps. 4. Help students build confidence. Recognizing small victories can help students build confidence in themselves and in their skills. This comes with relationship building. It comes with celebrating small victories. 5. Foster inclusion. Inclusion applies to students of different races, ethnicities, classes, genders, and other groups. It's making everyone feels like each has a seat at the table every single day. 6. Remember that no students are alike. It can be difficult to differentiate between students of the same age or grade level. Teachers can use pre-assessments to determine where students are academically, design instructional experiences to meet their needs, and offer midpoint assessments to evaluate whether students are mastering a concept. Design learning experiences around the cultural capital of your students. You want students to leverage all of their skills that they come to you with through their cultural lens. Teachers should recognize that the diverse experiences every student brings to the classroom can add richness to learning. And challenges students face outside the classroom do not always equate to deficits. 8. Include many examples of diverse literature. Assess whether your texts reflect your students' experiences and ensure resources included in your curriculum are diverse. It's imperative for teachers to give context and reference points to topics that allow students to build on the current schema they have learned. 9. Refrain from being the sage on the stage. Teachers should act as facilitators of learning. Learning is not just a one-way street. I need to teach my students multiplication skills, but I also want it to become an open-ended conversation, a two-way conversation that my students share their experiences with me. 10. Evaluate how your teaching style and physical space support. Are kids sitting in just desk? Is the room set up in a way that students can have dialogue? Are you having cooperative learning activities that students can safely participate in? What does that look like? And how do you do that? 11. Design learning challenges to include students working together. Bring students together through problem-based learning to solve real-world issues. Do not always let students choose their own groups. Pairing students with different partners can help create an inclusive environment and foster empathy between classmates. 12. Involve your school's community. Bring guest speakers into the classroom who represent your student population and their interests. Understanding what is happening in your school's community and bringing real-world examples into classroom can help students connect learning experiences to their communities. Those are some tips in leading multicultural environment. With that in mind, let us now move to the last key point of my presentation. How can a teacher in multicultural environment enhance teaching and learning across cultures? I would like to share with you 6 principles of good teaching as follows. 1. Focus on students as learners. 2. Respect and adjust for diversity. 3. Provide context-specific information and support. 4. Facilitate meaningful intercultural dialogue and engagement. 5. Be adaptable, flexible, and responsive to evidence. And 6. Prepare students for life in a globalized world. Principle 1. Focus on students as learners. Effective intercultural teaching assumes everyone benefits from expanding the repertoire of learning behaviors. Some students will prefer to absorb information by listening carefully, taking notes, and reviewing lecture content outline. Others will prefer to ask questions, challenge the facts that are presented, and engage you and other students in argument and debate. Transition into a new academic culture will usually require students to acquire different skills and adapt locally valued behaviors in order to be effective learners. In line with this principle, you can teach effectively across cultures by, for example, providing prompt feedback to students on their performance, not making assumptions about students' learning preferences based on their cultural background or their appearance, to providing a variety of learning and assessment activities. 3. Providing examples, models, and suggestions on ways of approaching learning in the discipline. 4. Facilitating the development of self-assessment and reflection on learning. And 5. Supporting the development of communities of learners through, for example, peer mentoring and peer-assisted study programs. Principle 2. Respect and adjust for diversity. Teaching and learning within a culturally inclusive learning environment requires effort from teachers and students. For teachers, the aim is to create a learning culture that exposes all students to multiple perspectives, challenges them, and connects with them with alternative views of the world. Inclusive teaching treats different ways of knowing as a valuable resource for learning. Students are unlikely to respect and value their diverse peers' knowledge unless encouraged to do so. Respecting and adjusting for diversity requires judgment and reflective practice on the part of the teacher, and reflection on the effectiveness of any attempt to create a more inclusive teaching environment for all students. You can teach effectively across cultures, adjusting for diversity by, for example, 1. Finding out about incoming students' linguistic, cultural, and educational backgrounds. Student groups will differ one from another and individuals will differ within those groups. 2. Recognizing diversity in the cultural, socio-cultural, academic, and linguistic backgrounds of the local student population. 3. Adjusting teaching, learning, and assessment activities to take into account and utilize your students' diverse cultural, socio-cultural, academic, and linguistic backgrounds, work, and life experiences. 4. Asking students about their preferred modes of learning and encouraging them to try new approaches to learning. And 5. Maintaining a sharp eye on equivalence, fairness, inclusivity through reflective practice informed by student performance data. Principle 3. Provide context-specific information and support. The context in which learning takes place includes the surroundings, such as the school campus and its location, the setting, for example, large classroom, laboratory, small classroom, and the circumstances, for example, a test under supervision, an online discussion group in a first year class. The context will shape students' own behavior and how they expect others to behave, but most remain unaware of what they expect or assume in a familiar setting or situation. It is easy to assume that others understand context in the same way that we do. Teaching and learning is an interaction where individual teachers and students may have very different expectations of each other. Context-specific information and support makes expectations transparent. Clarity is especially important in relation to assessment expectations, including the criteria by which success will be measured. You can teach effectively across cultures, adjusting information for context by, for example, 1. Recognizing the need to adjust teaching and service provision for learning context and student cohort. 2. Encouraging students in lectures and tutorials and or online to ask questions about expectations in relation to assessment criteria, including the weighing of components such as grammar, vocabulary, content, and structure. 3. Explaining what different task requirements mean, such as evaluate, justify, analyze, and creating opportunities for students to use and critique exemplars or efforts to meet task requirements. 4. Clarifying what good performance is by providing marking rubrics which explain each criterion, clarifying expected standards or performance for specific assessment tasks. And 5. Waiting after asking a question to give students time to formulate an answer. Principle 4. Enable meaningful intercultural dialogue and engagement. The informal or co-curriculum can also encourage and reward meaningful intercultural engagement. It is a core responsibility to actively foster a diverse cultural environment and to create opportunities for cultural learning beyond the classroom. Creating opportunities for domestic and international students to interact outside of the classroom is particularly useful. You can teach effectively across cultures and enable dialogue and engagement by, for example, 1. Providing specific preparation and support for all students to develop their cross-cultural communication skills prior to and during group tasks. 2. Ensuring appropriate support is available to develop all students' academic and social language skills. 3. Talking to other staff teaching on the program about how they enable and encourage intercultural engagement. 4. Assessing the process as well as the outcome of cross-cultural group assignments. And 5. Encouraging self-reflection and self-assessment by students as they engage in cross-cultural group assignments. That ends my presentation, and I would like to share with you my final thoughts. Every school needs a cadre of teacher leaders. When administrative leadership changes in a school, there should be a network of teacher leadership that will sustain that change in a productive way. Teacher leadership in a multicultural classroom is daunting and exciting. This should happen in a context of respect and openness. The intercultural classroom is an ideal place to prepare students for a disconnected and increasingly open world. And every teacher needs to understand the pathways to teacher leadership. Teacher leaders are critical in enhancing quality of teaching and learning in multicultural environment and establishing school cultures that ensure change is always meaningful and relevant. Multicultural classrooms are places of energy and challenge. If educators bring personal and professional energy to these settings, further energy and, of course, learning will be the outcomes. Opportunities for students of the world to meet, understand each other, and work together are paramount to achieving goals within and beyond the classrooms. It is not a position that makes you a leader. It is not authority. Leadership is about impact, how you're able to make rain in the lives of others. When that's your starting point, you can create an environment where students are engaged, where they care about each other, have real conversations, and tackle challenges together. Supports for the intercultural classrooms should be a priority as geographic boundaries become less significant and classrooms become increasingly diverse. I'd like to close my presentation with this quotation. Leadership is a choice, it is not a rank, by Simon Sinek. Thank you for joining us today.
This is the end of the video uh, for the lecture 5. If anyone have questions, please type into a question box and Dr. Anita will address each question. Yeah.
Okay, so we have just finished watching our video, and I would like to invite each of us to just be feeling free. This is just, like a conversation. We have been doing this already. And feel free to share your ideas, share thoughts, or ask questions. And then we all together answer questions. While you maybe are still thinking, I'd like just to share some thoughts that came to my mind while listening again the video. I would like to kind of share with you the difference between multicultural environment and multicultural education. When we speak of multicultural environment here in my presentation, what I have in mind is that for teachers, the multicultural environment is the classroom. But for business people, the multicultural environment will be their own teamwork in the workplace. So that's a difference now between business people and teachers. Ours is in the classroom. So multicultural environment refers to diverse students we have in the classroom in terms of ethnicity, culture, religion, gender, family background, socioeconomic, status, and others. So that's what I have in mind when I speak of multicultural environment. Multicultural education is referring to ideas, referring to, a big thing, because this is a kind of education that is catering to, again, diverse learners, but the scope is beyond the classroom. It is a school, I would say, initiative to make that school address a multicultural education. So it's bigger in scope. There will be some policies, school policies, to handle such kind of education, where you are catering different and diverse learners, feeding them really sense of belongingness within the school campus and particularly in the classroom. So that's the distinction that I have in mind. But you see, in our perspective and based on our experience now, our education is really kind of a global education. It's a kind of going into really a multicultural education because we have diverse learners. But that multicultural education, then I am referring here to the classroom. But here in this leadership, in multicultural environment, teacher leaders in particular can lead in two ways. You can be a leader inside your classroom and outside your classroom. That is why in my presentation, I tried to distinguish between transformational teacher leader and transformational teacher leadership. So when we see a transformational teacher leader, you are a leader in your classroom to diverse learners. But when we speak of transformational teacher leadership, you go beyond your classroom and lead people out there.
And Dr. Anita,
Yes. Do we have some questions?
Mr. Bernarda asked for your thought about the gaps in terms of communication and resource may be a problem to settle by teachers.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Is this Miss Liano, right? Okay. So there is this gap in terms of communication and resources. Okay. I would like to share my thoughts, but you can always follow up if I have not really pointed out the sense of your question. But what I am understanding of the question is that there is a communication gap, probably communication in terms of the gap in terms of accessing resources. Is that it now? That the resources that you are referring here could be support. Is this now the teacher, principal support, or materials, like learning materials, or financial aspect? It seems that the question, but anyway, the way I understand, so there is a communication problem in accessing resources. Is this it? Mr.
Language barriers, ma'am.
Language barriers.
As well as resources in terms of the resources in terms of accessing materials in teaching.
Okay. Now I guess what you are telling here is that the language, there is this language gap, and it's a challenge to access the resources, the materials, because of language barrier, right?
Yes.
That's really a big problem. I see the problem that you are referring here. But you see, at this point in time, we have technology, I guess, so we can have translation, though the Google translation is not really, I would say, it's not that accurate.
Yes.
But yeah, I understand. But if there is no way, then in some point, maybe it helps. Or you can also ask someone else who have who can help to access the resources. The point is that if this is my native language and the resource is like English language, for example, how could I be able to understand the resource, the material? How could I be able to interpret the material?
Yes.
If I lack this communication, if there is this communication gap. Okay. I would say translation is the only thing that would help out, right? We need some other third party to help you interpret the material. That's one thing. Another thing is to learn the language, but learning the language quite, will take some time. I understand.
Yes, yes.
It's not a joke, It's really a struggle, Me, for example, I have been trying to learn Vietnamese, but I find it really difficult, So, you are not the only one having a problem in terms of language gap, But I acknowledge your concern. But as I said, translation really is quite important. Either use Google Translation or use some other people out there who can help you. Or maybe from your own country can have all these very important resources and have them translated, and that all teachers can enjoy, can use, can avail of the materials. And that you can request your department, your head, leader, school leader, to do it for the teachers, so that not only you will be able to benefit from it, but all the teachers. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
That would be a great challenge, Madam.
That's true. I understand.
That would be a great challenge, especially that the country has so many dialects. Has so many dialects, and reaching out, considering that our school is to cater to these students, I guess that would be a very big challenge for the college, and I guess that would be a very worthy endeavor in the future.
Indeed, I understand, and I agree with you. Yeah, that's quite very, very challenging in a multicultural environment. Even teachers, for example, have no access of these materials, and we feel that these materials are very, very important to be able to make our teaching learning process quality.
Yes. Especially the teachers will be going into a, say, professional, the licensure.
Yes.
And that would be another problem. How can my students say, take up the licensure exam when the language used is not in accordance to their specific dialect?
That is true. So I guess that concerns should be addressed to the higher office, like your Ministry of Education, or the top leaders, to address that problem, because that's beyond the teachers. I would say solutions and endeavor, because that would mean money, of course, financial thing, if you do like some translations and other things. And if there is really that licensure examination, well, students and teachers should be provided with the necessary materials that is upgrading, quality education.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you so much for that very interesting and challenging question.
And the second question is that given that the diverse learners, how can the teachers motivate or encourage the students to work collaboratively? And what classroom instances that these students work collaboratively on?
Oh, wow, it's a wonderful question, Doc Alma. Yeah. So again, I'd like to read the question. Thank you, Mr. Fad, for reading. Okay, it says, how can the teachers motivate, encourage the students to work collaboratively, given the situation that they are diverse learners? They come from they have different backgrounds, I would say. And what classroom instances that these students work collaboratively? Now, firstly, I would say that confronting or teaching diverse learners, and you would like them to come together as a group and work together. And then the question is, how does that happen? What should be done so that this collaboration is a success? You're right. You said that teachers should motivate and encourage the students to work collaboratively. The question is how. Now, the point is that being a teacher, I expect that he or she knows the students well. I mean, the teacher knows the backgrounds of the students. The teacher knows the culture of the students, their diversity, and to encourage and motivate these diverse learners is the teacher will give really like a space for them, would assure the students that their insights, their opinions, their ideas are respected. There is no right or wrong answer, or when you are doing a group work, each one belongs to the group and no one is left behind. I guess this is now the role of the teacher to let the students feel that they belong, that they are accepted, that they are important. So in that way, the students will be inspired and motivated to come out from their shell and to work with their group mates happily. They will be by themselves. They won't pretend to be somebody else. Just me, and accept me. I come from the mountain, and this is my experience in the big mountain where I hail. And what classroom instances that these students work collaboratively? I guess in terms of classroom instances, maybe you're referring here to particular situation, or maybe in a particular topic that would, invite students to come together and work collaboratively. It would depend now on the lessons that you are teaching, that may be a very good start for them to come out from their shell and work collaboratively. The teacher now will decide what particular situation or what particular condition, what particular topic, for example, the teacher is handling and teaching to students, would this collaborative work will be done or will be manifested? I hope I have answered your question. Doc Al.
Yes, thank you so much.
Very
Other
welcome.
teachers, actually, that's not a question. I would impose that for the purpose of discussion among the participants.
Thank
Siguro
you.
others can also share their experiences.
I invite others. You're right. Maybe others could also share their experiences. You're all invited. As I said, this is a very conversational session. So feel free. Ideas, opinions, insights are all accepted.
May I contribute, ma'am?
Yes. Go
I
ahead,
am
please.
Dr. Wilson Sebatian from CC, Philippines.
Yeah. Welcome.
Uh,
Yeah.
I would like to share something regarding the communication gap.
Mm-hmm.
Much more inside the classroom, we can apply as to solve that. Maybe our initiative, maybe we'll start in initial groupings of the students so that the language that maybe we use, if one of them can understand, one can share to others. So it might be initially sold to certain group. So usually in our class, what I did is I used to group them into 5, and then if there will be assignment, I can combine 2 groups. So at least there will be initial groupings, and at the same time handed that to another group, which is a combination of 2 groups, which is composed of 10 members. So that is one way of
Mm-hmm.
initial solving of the communication gap.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes because there are students who cannot actually understand about English, therefore they can talk. We can talk with each other within the group. So that is that was what I did in my class. And also I noticed that there is problem about the resources we have, because as we all know that not all students right now having the available resources, much more of this pandemic, in line with our uh, online delivery of the subject matter. So one way also is by the group, by team. There was an instance wherein one student tried to participate in the class, and the other student joined with there. So that is one way also of solving the problem of resources or facility during this pandemic. But I have my question also, that in the sense that we want that our students will be exposed thoroughly, because you mentioned earlier that leadership is about the impact of students, much more in facing challenges. How can we do this time regarding the exposure of students? Because in business, before we can expose immediately students to penetrate in certain office or businesses and be immediately observed. But today we cannot do that because of the limitations and what they call this, the pandemic. So how can we achieve such? That is my question for
Okay.
everybody, and maybe if you can answer also, ma'am, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so
On the
much for your thank you for your sharing of ideas and thoughts, and for that question. Much appreciated. Okay, now there is now a question raised by Dr. Alexis. Am I correct? Uh-huh. The question is that how can we expose our students to the field? Like, for example, you're teaching in business. Am I right? Teaching in business, and now we really we would like our students to go to the field and be exposed to what's really happening out there.
gusto naman bation.
Mr. Dr. Bation, right? Okay, thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much. So that's the problem because of the pandemic, and we cannot just everything is closed, and students will not be able to really go to the field and observe and experience and reflect whatever they have, seen and experienced out there. So before I will share my thoughts about that, can I ask you your opinions or your insights, or what have you also been doing over there in such a situation?
Are you asking? Are you asking me, ma'am? Or
Yeah,
you
I
already?
mean the group first. Maybe if there are some sharing before I will answer. I will share my thoughts. Okay, maybe while you are thinking, maybe what you will be sharing later, me I share first. Now, yeah, that question, that idea, I mean, that question really is quite interesting and thought-provoking, especially of the pandemic, that we are experiencing right now, this prolonged pandemic. Maybe it's a big word. I don't know how to describe it, but what comes to my mind while you were talking about it is that I really agree with you that we could not expose our students. So what I have in mind is that if we can make a virtual exposure to our students, if it is possible to go to the field and walk with students a long way, all this like factory or industry, whatever will that be, have a virtual field review and then share it with your students virtually. Will that be possible considering our current situation? That came to my mind because at this point in time, it's really impossible. Like here in Vietnam, we are really on strict lockdown and we are not allowed to go out. So, and I don't know in the Philippines if it is possible to go to the field and have the virtual or ask the company for a virtual field review of their company and share it with the students. So the students will go through virtually and see what's happening there. Have I answered your question? I mean, have I shared my thoughts?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay, no. Pero I know that the actual exposure of students cannot really compensate of the one we are thinking about the simulation. Because
Yeah.
in simulation, we just simply what they call this. It is an abstract, no. So, but maybe later on, if we can have a good simulation wherein it might be the real one. It might be an abstract of the real one. It might be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
But
it's an interactive simulation.
uh,
Yeah, but
might be good.
hopefully the
We can,
pandemic,
there should be a
hopefully
need of support from the management side on this
that's
aspect.
right.
The teacher
That's
cannot
very,
do
very
having an abstract or simulation that really reflect the real world,
yes.
the real experience supposed to be experienced by the students. So
Right.
maybe there is what they call a collaboration of the authorities, at the same time the management for this aspect, because the
Yeah.
teacher cannot do this alone.
Right.
I'm sure.
I agree.
You
It's
want
really,
to-
yeah, I agree. It's a network process. It's a network process, but the support of the management really counts the most. Okay. Thank you so much for that sharing. Do we still have? Okay. We have here Mr. Fat.
There's still Mr. Elmer raising hand.
Yes.
I don't know whether he would like
Yes.
to comment or sharing his thoughts.
Yeah, Doc Al. Are you in?
We still have one topic, Doc Anita.
Yes, later.
Okay.
We still have one topic. But, Mr. Fat, what do you think? Our time?
Okay, it's at the moment it's 10, so I would suggest we start the second topic and then
Yeah.
the Q&A later.
Yeah, I'm sorry for others. There are a lot of questions here. Maybe I can come to that later, right? I can just, Okay, Mr. Fat,
Yes.
we are already off time for the first topic.
Welcome back. This is topic 6, the role of teachers in post-pandemic education. COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the education system globally, but we are positive that COVID-19 pandemic will pass. And we are here to visualize the features of post-pandemic education. Hence, we are going to explore these 3 key points. How will pandemic change the future of schools? What will education look like in post-COVID-19 pandemic? And what is the role of the teachers in post-COVID-19 pandemic education? Let's begin with the first key point. How will pandemic change the future of schools? From the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, just over a year ago, educators have shown courage, creativity, and determination in helping their students and colleagues through the most difficult time of their lives. As we dare to look ahead, your voices will be more important than ever in ensuring that all students get the education they deserve. I'm going to share with you several ways the pandemic changes the future of schools. Pandemic changes the future of schools. 1. Educator workload. 2. Student learning. 3. Extracurricular activities. 4. Equity and fairness. 5. Mental health. 6. Technology. 7. Solidarity. And 8. Safer schools. Educator workload. Collaboration and bargaining can lighten the load. Crushing educator workload is nothing new, and it has only intensified during the pandemic. As difficult as the last year has been, it has also reminded educators of the power of collaboration and collective bargaining, especially when it comes to keeping their workload under control. Student learning. Educational recovery must be equitable. The COVID-19 pandemic created challenges for every learner. A lack of technology, high rates of coronavirus infection, job loss, and food insecurity are just some of the struggles impacting pandemic education. For many students, the struggles were insurmountable. Some students missed days, even weeks, of distance learning as they scrambled to find devices and connectivity. Others remained unreachable despite teachers' best efforts to locate them. But the pandemic has also brought an opportunity to reimagine and re-engineer the policies and processes that have benefited some students over others. As we chart the path to the future, teachers, parents, community leaders, and elected officials must work together to ensure every student and every teacher can learn and work in spaces that are safe, supportive, enriching, and equitable. Build bridges between students and their teachers by focusing on relationships with families and students while assessing the barriers that have prevented them from being active and engaged. Use a lot of positive reinforcement and trust building when working with families who may feel like they are to blame for their children's difficulties in school, or with students who feel overwhelmed because they are so far behind. Provide tutoring, mentoring, and counseling to students who need extra support. Ensure that trauma-informed practices are integrated into the curriculum to support students during class time. When all students finally return to the classroom, educators will need time to focus on learning recovery and social and emotional needs. The following strategies can support learning recovery. Differentiating lessons for different learning needs. Ensuring adequate intensity when making decisions about extending the school day or year, including after-school activities and reduced class sizes. Sufficient, highly credentialed staff will also be required. Using the right assessments, many standardized tests reward skills that closely correlate with a student's socioeconomic background, and creating an equity plan with stated goals and objectives to allow for equitable learning opportunities for underserved students. Extracurricular activities. Art classes will get even more creative. Across the nation, arts educators have been similarly challenged. How do you preserve what's important in arts education? The creativity, the social emotional learning, the fuel for the power of the imaginative mind while navigating virtual learning or physical distancing. Equity and fairness. Race and class inequities can no longer be ignored. Have you ever found yourself listening carefully to what someone is saying while ignoring the background noise in the room? It's only when someone points out the other sound that you realize it's even there. This is called selective attention. It allows us to focus on what matters most to us and block out the problems around us. But once you notice the problem, you can no longer ignore it. Mental health. A new focus on teachers' well-being. Even in the best of times, the life of a teacher is hard on a person's mental health. Teachers have a natural drive to care for other people, and we're left with whatever's left. Last year, a pre-pandemic study by English researchers found that an increasing number of teachers face mental health issues, and that sleeping problems, panic attacks, and anxiety issues had contributed to teachers' decision to leave the profession. Now, the trauma of living through a pandemic as well as ongoing racial and economic inequities has deepened those issues. But teachers can just live with the consequences. They can't affect their stressors, but they can change the reaction to them. It's about shifting mindset and the habits they incorporate daily. It's how they live their life. Then, when the stressors come, they can manage them. Technology. Continue to use digital tools to support students' learning, but be aware of their limitations. If a year of remote learning has proven anything, it's that there is no substitute for face-to-face, in-person relationships among students, teachers, and other school staff. But many districts have now invested millions of dollars in distancing learning infrastructure, and that means technology is likely to play a more important role in education, even when everyone returns to the classroom. Still, the integration of digital technology into instruction and practice will always require access to relevant, high-quality, interactive professional development for every teacher. Technology is a tool to enhance and enrich instruction for students and should not be used as a way to replace any teacher or limit that person's role. Teachers learn how to leverage digital tools and to support students using critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration skills. Solidarity. Since the pandemic began, teachers have continually put pressure on their school districts to provide guidance, flexibility, and support. They have done this during a time of deep social isolation and loneliness, and many turned to their unions for camaraderie, courage, and community. I think the pandemic really helped people understand the power of us through organizing efforts and safer schools. Health and safety will be a priority for schools. No one knows exactly how COVID 19 will impact public health in the years to come, so everyone will have to remain vigilant, particularly in our nation's schools. While basic practices such as mask wearing, frequent hand washing, and sanitizing are effective, they also cost money. After decades of underfunding schools, lawmakers will face more urgent pressure to invest in the health and safety of our students. The pandemic trajectory confirms we need school nurses more than ever. Students need much more mental health support in coping with academic, personal, and family challenges resulting from COVID 19. School infrastructure plays an equally important role in keeping students and staff safe. Appropriate ventilation has always been important in schools, but it's also crucial to fight COVID 19. Keeping this in mind, let me go on to the second major topic of my presentation. What will education look like in post-COVID 19 pandemic? By 2025, the online education and e-learning market is expected to reach $350 billion according to Vera Mirzoyan 2021. This is not just an opinion about education for the future, but a statement based on detailed research. Probably, this number is enough to at least imagine the importance of education technology and the role of software in education. As we may see, technology rapidly changes the world around us. Accordingly, many people worry that such a growth of innovations will replace human intelligence. Some education providers even worry that there won't be students to want to learn any longer in the future as technology takes over a lot of responsibilities that we have been teaching our students for decades. The thing is that education will never disappear. Everything expected is just related to different forms of educational process management. These days, people value their time and find ways to spend the minimum possible time to get the maximum of results. Online teaching is the best approach to make this come true in the field of education. In this session, I'm going to share with you the outcomes of the detailed research of Vera Mirzoyan and her point of view about education in future, expectations, changes, trends, and tendencies, which is worthwhile pondering. Here are her 10 points of view. Time and distance diversity. People who want to learn get a chance to do it at different time zones and in different locations. Software education makes the process of remote and self-paced learning possible. Learners may join the classes, courses, and any training from every part of the world. In some cases, blended learning methods will be more preferable and used. This is the process when the theoretical part of the knowledge is transferred and acquired through online channels, while the practical knowledge is shared in a face-to-face environment in a classroom or any educational institutions. Personalizing in teaching. Today, different learners have different requirements. They tend to get such ways of acquiring knowledge that best meets their needs and agrees with preferences. Students use different tools and adapt to their capabilities and to help make the process faster and easier. Education arises questions among the students and makes them overcome challenges. The process becomes even more complicated when the learners have a different level of background knowledge and some participants find it difficult to go along with others and manage to do everything in time. Personalized teaching is the most common way to meet this demand. It's already common in the educational market, but I'm sure it will grow even higher. In this way, those students who have difficulties while practicing this or that subject will get an opportunity to practice as much as required to reach their desired level. Each student will be individually and positively reinforced during the teaching process. Such an approach usually has a positive influence on the learning experience and increases not only the growth of success but also the number of active learners. Personalized teaching results in a positive learning experience and minimalizes the number of students who lose confidence in their academic abilities, and yet teachers clearly understand which students need help and in which areas. Freedom in choice. Currently, there is a vast variety of technological devices and preferences. This diversity tends to go even deeper, and with this flow, learners are quite free in choosing any educational technology they find appropriate. Students get a free choice in choosing the technology as well as the tool or feature they like to go for. They may join both with a PC, laptop, tablet, and smartphone. They may choose to join live stream lessons, online webinars, or buy video courses. So the choice is wide and free. Students get knowledge with different devices, different programs and techniques, taking into account their personal preferences. Project-based learning. Along with a career choice adapting to the future economy, students tend to go for project-based education. They will be more likely to learn how to apply their skills in shorter terms to a number of situations. Students will get used to project-based learning in high school. This is the period when organizational, collaborative, and time management skills are usually taught as basics that are used by the student in their further academic careers. Project-based learning is a method of teaching that focuses on learning by actively engaging in real-world and personally meaningful projects. Thanks to such an approach, students get more practical knowledge and are more likely to get faster results because, as I believe, theoretical knowledge doesn't have any effect until it is used in real examples. Specific field experience. As technology innovations facilitate the education sharing process and people are more tend to learn something new or improve their knowledge, the tendencies of teaching approaches become more focused on specific field. For instance, these days you may find engaging online videos on different niches from yoga teaching up to marketing consulting or business coaching. These are just a few examples or fields. There are more specialized niches that are emphasized in online courses, and many new directions will become trendy in education in the future. As time goes, schools will gradually offer more opportunities for students to gain real life skills that are representative of their jobs. This means that the educational program will provide more opportunities for learners to apply for internships, mentoring projects, or collaboration projects. This will increase the number of educated people and grow the society. Data interpretation. The analysis and data interpretation are usually implemented to support the fundamental purpose of assessment. The final goal is to establish and understand the educational level of the learners as well as their learning aspect at the end of assessment. This is done by the teacher analyzing individually or different teachers working together to make sense of data as well as other forms of assessment that serve as evidence about where students are in their development. Structured discussions with colleagues are meant to strengthen judgments that require interpretation from behaviors, including a review of whether the assessment design reveals the student's development accurately. People-oriented education. These days, when people are interested in getting specific knowledge material tailored to their needs, people-oriented education comes next to us. As the learning environment is rapidly developing, Learners become more specific about making decisions about this or that educational course or training. This is the reason education providers will offer more people-oriented material in education for the future. Such an approach to the educational process is especially preferable for effectively managing employee training. In this way, the individual specialists gets more personalized knowledge and fundamental skills. People-oriented education offers a higher level of personalized creativity and motivation as it is prepared for a chosen group of learners. New format of examination. As the approach towards teaching tends to be changed, the traditional way of examinations is not possible to stay trendy and effective. The process will become maximally automated. Some specialists in the sphere are worried about the quality of the examination process. They believe that tests are organized in a way that makes the students cram the material and forget it the next day. In the future, the focus will be on practical material. The learners will work on real projects, showing their acquired knowledge and skills in the form of real results. Student ownership. Following the guidelines of people-oriented teaching, process personalization comes to the main importance. Learners are the target group and the mission is to satisfy them, meet their requirements, and realize their expectations. Accordingly, learners are meant to be involved in the process of organizing the training material, scheduling, and even choosing the content type. Importance of mentoring. As students become more and more independent and prefer free learning, they go away from traditional teachers and are more likely to choose mentors or trainers in the sphere. Theoretical knowledge loses its importance when there is no practice. That's why learners are more likely to trust a specialists who had practical experience. As we have understood, the future of education takes to more quality-centric, learner-oriented, and maximal automated. The mission is to satisfy the end users, students with minimal effort. E-teaching provides this opportunity, and I'm sure there will be better features and functionality in the future. If you are interested in joining the flow and making the world stronger, you may start with your personal e-teaching platform. You may create your own website within minutes and provide valuable material people need. This way, you will increase the quality of online education in your turn. Knowing the features of school and education in post-pandemic education brings us to the last key point. What is the role of teachers in post-COVID-19 pandemic education? The global pandemic has disrupted education in all levels. Globally, about 1.6 billion students in 188 countries were locked out of their schools as countries dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. Individual school systems were left on their own to offer instruction at a distance. Most school systems discovered it wasn't easy to go virtual. A lack of teaching training, accessible tools, and preparation time made the launch of remote learning flawed and rushed. Add this to the fact that educators and school leaders are dealing with their own anxieties and fears for their lives as the virus continues to spread. The critical question to us is this: why couldn't education system adapt to such a large-scale charge during the pandemic? Like most large-scale, well-established systems, education resists change. Schools haven't structurally changed much in a long time, but the world we live in is no longer the stable and predictable place it once was. Add a deadly virus to the equation, and what do we get? A complex system ill-equipped to adapt quickly to serve its learners and prepare its teachers. As an education system, we must jump ahead and prepare for learning post-COVID-19. What will teaching look like in this future? Here are 6 of the new critical roles educators in post-COVID-19 pandemic education will embrace. Educators must be future-focused. As educators, we can teach the content outlined in our curricula and academic standards while simultaneously helping learners develop the required skills of modern learners. Since these are uncertain times, educators can take the opportunity to practice project-based learning, flipped learning, maker learning, or another student-centered learning approach. Educators must be lifelong learners. Educators must continuously learn, unlearn, and relearn to improve their instructional craft. New research findings and advancements in teaching methodologies are reported each day, but this further information, vital to educators, is lost in the sea of information overload. Educators can explore micro courses, workshops, or certification training to brush up on their face-to-face, blended, and online teaching practices. Or they can simply search for new ideas online or join a professional learning network. Educators must be facilitators of learning, not sages on stages. Despite the long-standing tradition of doing just this, the job of the educators is not to stand up in front of students and show them how smart they are. Instead, an educator's job is to empower students to become independent thinkers and doers. Educators must shift the responsibility for learning from the teacher, where it has traditionally been, to their students, where it belongs. Educators must be expert generalists, not specialists. In a world dealing with information overload, memorization is just not the same as understanding. Increasingly, what we see in the modern world is a move away from associating success based on rote memorization of content. As the amount of information increases exponentially, success in life depends less and less on rote learning and more on a person's skill to process information and to use it in a discerning and creative manner. Expert generalists have effective analytical processing and application skills. They study many different fields to understand more profound principles across domains in order to make connections. Educators must embrace discovery learning. When educators depend too heavily on the teaching as telling, learning as listening instructional model, it can cheat learners out of that aha moment where they connect prior knowledge to discover something new. Modern educators must constantly strive to be creators of engagement, not just know it alls or content dispensers. Educators must enhance instruction with real world meaning. One of the essential uses of information is solving real world problems and creating something new or better. For learners to undertake these endeavors, they will need to depend on educators to craft problems for them to solve or products for them to create. Educators must be crafters of real world problems. Although there are plenty of other roles and responsibilities educators must develop, these six are very practical and transferable to any academic setting, virtual or face-to-face. Although the pandemic is unnerving and unsettling, it is forcing people inside and outside education to question long-standing practices and change its antiquated system into more of a fluid and adaptable model. We have just finished the second topic of our online session today, topic 6, the role of teachers in post-pandemic education. I would like to close this topic with a few thoughts. Teaching and learning already extends well beyond the classroom and will continue to do so as an education changes to suit the future's needs. The role of the teacher must also adapt and grow. It is each teacher's responsibility to empower students to take risks, be innovative, and seize any opportunity thrown their way. In light of a shift towards a more personalized learner experience, teachers of the future must be prepared to be data collectors as well as analysts, planners, collaborators, curriculum experts, synthesizers, problem solvers, and researchers. The role of the teacher will evolve in the future, but the teacher's ability will never perish. Great teachers will be with us a long way into the future. Thank you for joining us today.
So this is the end of the second video. Dr. Anita.
Yes. So we have just finished watching the second video. And now we are for our question and answer session.
So while our dear participants are raising their questions, I would like to ask all the participants to please type their emails into the chat box so that we can have a record of your participants participation. Thank you.
Hello, Ma'am Anita. Good morning
Hello.
again.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Question. I think this is a question, or I just would like to know from other Asian countries on what system that you wish or that you want, or is it a mandate already, or shall we say a mandate to implement in the post-pandemic education? Is it blended? I mean, other countries, what would you like after the pandemic, no? So is it blended, a combination of face-to-face, or the so-called going back to face-to-face alone, same before? Here in the Philippines, as mentioned by the CHED commissioner, that we will be taking a leap, no, in the future, in the post-pandemic. We call it as a new normal. So therefore, we in the educational system, we are preparing for that, no, the blended education or the blended learning in the future. So as a way of preparing, so this time we are eager to know on the use of the technology. We are also planning to invest for the LMS, even though it's very expensive, but expensive, but we are also open to those mga libre lang, no, mga free lang, as long as we can adapt the new normal. So my query is, what are you practicing in other Asian countries? Like we have here Myanmar. So before, it's a solely face-to-face, and after the post-pandemic, I'm sure you are okay this time, siguro other Asian countries. But here in the Philippines, we are still on the, we don't have face-to-face yet.
Okay. That's a very good, I would say still question, because you're questioning about the blended learning or purely face-to-face learning after the pandemic, like in the post-pandemic education. So this is thrown to other like Asian countries, which one are you going to adapt?
Yeah, because in the future also, Ma'am Anita, maybe we do not know, no, simba ko lang na napoy another pandemic or other uncertainties. So we are ready enough. So at this time, we should be very adaptable to that. Okay, so
that's good. That's a very interesting query. Before maybe others are still thinking, but I would like to just say something. For example, Singapore. Singapore has already been using blended learning even before the pandemic. And they're I think they're ready anytime for whatever comes ahead, as mentioned, if there be other pandemics in the future. So what about in Myanmar? What is the plan of the Ministry of Education or the government about handling your post-pandemic education?
Yes, Madam. I'm from Myanmar, and I'm from the Ministry of uh, Science and Technology, and I'm from the computer universities. And in our computer university, we have already LMS program as Moodle system before the pandemic. I don't know whether other universities are establishing this Moodle system, but we are a computer university and we have already LMS. And on this pandemic period, for post-pandemic period, I think we can manage this blended learning properly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for your sharing. Do we have do we have participants from Cambodia?
Yes, it's me, Dara from
Okay.
Cambodia. Can you hear me well, Dr.
Yes,
Anita?
sure, I can.
Yes. I'm so grateful to join the session today. Let me express my sincere thanks with the session today. Yeah, look back to Cambodia, I feel we are a little bit far behind in terms of post-pandemic preparation. So far, we've been using different LMS platforms. I'm not sure if we should call it LMS platform or not, since our Ministry of Education has not really mentioned that Google Classroom should be used. They've been training teachers and they've been sharing around how to create a Google Classroom and using a Google tool for teaching. While at university, people use LMS systems such as Microsoft Teams. So I'm working for one university in Siem Reap, Cambodia. We've been using Microsoft Teams there. But in the country, we don't have any specific platform to use it. Although I would like to update to our participant here also from Cambodia, only one university that using the blended learnings curriculum, that is in Phnom Penh, the Royal University of Phnom Penh. They've been using that. Yeah, the rest not really. Beside that, our Ministry of Education has created the course book. What it is called is a summary core lesson. So the school are asked to use this summary book in order to teach students. So instead of teaching them full lesson, it is just a summary points. So that's why I said we are a little bit far in terms of the preparation for the post-pandemic. It's good for me to learn from you all here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing us your thoughts. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Fat, do we have participants from Vietnam or from Indonesia?
Currently, I don't see any participants from Vietnam, even though there are a few.
Okay, so we have 3 countries participating today, right? We have Philippines, Myanmar, and Cambodia.
Yes.
Okay, may I know who's in the line? Okay, Mr. Fat.
Yes, yes.
So we have no other countries, right? So the 3 countries have shared already about the plans or things that they will be doing after the post-pandemic education, the kind of education that they would be, I would say, adapting.
So currently we are at 10:45. There's still another 15 minutes for sharing and Q&A sessions.
Okay.
I wonder if anyone would like to continue, or this is the end of our session.
So I just want to summarize what has been shared about the possible type of education to be used in the post-pandemic, right? I guess in the Philippines, there is a plan to use the blended learning, right, Doc Al? After the pandemic. And in Myanmar, it's not so sure yet, but though there are already universities using blended learning. And so also
Yes.
Cambodia, so
Yes.
sure whether it's blended learning or face-to-face learning. Okay, so thank you so much for the sharing. Are there questions we have from our participants about the role of teacher in post-pandemic education? Yes, Mr. Fat.
To our dear participants, currently there is an announcement in the chat box regarding the assignment for today's sessions. These two links will also be sent to your email. So please kindly tap your email into the chat box so that we would not miss anyone. And for Dr. Anita, I don't see any other questions in the chat box. So if you would like to conclude these sessions, I will wait for the participants to tap their email until 11 o'clock, and I will close the sessions completely.
Okay, so far, are there a question? Dr. Al, you are raising your hand. Acknowledge.
Dr. Anita, if you don't
Yes,
like, I would like to.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Dr. Al. I'm sorry.
Okay lang, sige lang.
Okay, I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
I thought, okay. So sorry, my dear.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so can I finish my point?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Dr. Anita, if it is possible, would you share one of the point I saw through the slide for the second part? The term is personalized teaching. I'm really interested in this term that say teacher need to be ready for the post-pandemic. And part of the points, there are many points, but I'm interested in one point, say personalized teaching. So what is personalized teaching in this case that we need to be ready for future teacher for the pandemic, post-pandemic? Thanks.
Thank you so much for your question. Yeah. When I speak of personalized teaching, I am referring to a kind of teaching that is a differentiated teaching, a teaching that would address to the needs of the students. It would be very, maybe, I would say ideal, but it really would help so much if we can address the needs of our individual students. It will be personalized. Like if I have my students, like 25 students or 30 students in my class, do I know the academic level of my students, each of them? Do I know their inadequacies? Do I know their needs? Perhaps even their needs, not academically, like personal or family, issues that might affect their academic performance. And so in that way, I can adjust my way of teaching, my manner of teaching. Maybe I can make it quite simple in the manner that they would understand. And I could incorporate their experiences, to be able to facilitate the learning process, including their own maybe difficulties, in their concerns and their issues, and kind of that's personalized learning and personalized teaching. It is, I guess, in that manner, the students would be able to feel that they are cared for, that they are part of the community of learners. And that would, encourage and motivate students to go out of himself or herself and participate and join the learning process.
So when we speak of personalized teaching, it will be a differentiated technology, differentiated instruction, and differentiated learning. When I say differentiated technology, what kind of technology the students, can, you know, can be able to use, like smartphone, laptop, whatever, whatever devices that are comfortable. So it would really, personalized teaching is really doing extra mile so that learning becomes effective and meaningful for students. And that's what we are doing. I guess some of us are doing that kind of teaching learning process, but hopefully, we can proceed and we can enhance that in future education. Considering that, looking back the pandemic, the effects or the pandemic to the lives of some of our students or to students in general. I hope I have shared with you my thoughts, and you can follow me up if I miss something.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, Doc Anita. Yes, I agree. No, that academics need to improve not only their technological competence to implement the technology enhanced learning strategies, but also the capacity of the pedagogical skills, the use of different theories of teaching in delivery. So that's very important. So at this time, we're nakafocus na ang taan sa technology. Nalimta na nato ang mga theories of learning.
Yeah.
Parang inana. So need to improve pa. Academics need to improve. Need to revisit all those things. So match with the new technology, well, it could enhance the overall student experience because as we agree or based on research that the technology enhanced learning, it has the capacity to produce good learning outcomes. Diba? So mag-match silang duha, technology with the academic preparations of the faculty to the better. And it's the best.
Yeah, I really truly agree with what you are saying. Both are very important. The competency of the teacher to deliver the lesson, to teach, how to teach, need to know the theory and apply the theory and adapt the theory to the particular setting, to the context where our students are, so that learning process will become more effective and meaningful for the students. And I hope that we are having now like professional development for teachers to improve their teaching strategies, understanding theories and apply theories in a manner that students understand. Thank you so much for that sharing. And I hope by this time also, like institutions, like colleges, universities, and schools are offering continually the teacher development program, capacity building for teachers. This is very, very important, especially that we are now in the pandemic and also in the post-pandemic. There
Doc,
are,
if I may add,
understand. Yes.
Jada Kinyo, Doc.
Okay, Jada, go ahead.
I agree with Doc Alma on what she said that teachers should not also be equipped with using technology, but also they need to revisit the theories of teaching. That is why, as I have said in the chat, professional development is very important for us teachers, and most especially in, as what you have said, Doc, on schools should also support their teachers in encouraging their teachers to attend seminars or trainings, not just in inter-school, but also they will invite speakers from around the world so that they will be able to share standards and practices, and also their knowledge will be broadened. It will not be it's not exclusive, but inclusive. So that's all.
Okay, thank you so much for your insight, Jeda. I agree with you. Now, today we can avail of online training, right? So we can invite institutions, for example, could invite speakers outside the country, those experts out there, and I'm pretty sure they're willing also to share their expertise. That will be an add-on to academic competency of our staff, of our teachers. We need this. We need to go out from our own room and explore. So that's one thing. Through training, webinars, and also networking with teachers around. It's good to network teachers inside the school and outside, networking with universities out there, teachers, different universities and colleges and schools. They have their own experiences to tell, and they are in the ground, and they are practice teachers. They know their experiences may be different from ours or similar from ours, and we do learn from one another. And that's the best thing we do. Well, the support of, really, I agree that the support of the management is very important. However, I understand that support somehow is a bit, maybe limited. So we can also encourage our faculty or teachers to do their own, self-professional growth, add on to what is available outside. That would become more profound, I guess. Because as teachers, we are leaders, and we know what we need, and we can sort out what's important to us. We can do it alongside the schools offering trainings and other possible faculty development aspects,
Hello, what's the time now in Vietnam?
Yes.
In Vietnam now? What's the time?
In Vietnam now,
It
it's 10:58.
So ours here is 11:58. So
Okay.
it seems that we need to grab a bite.
Yeah, true. But we're supposed to end at 11:30 here.
Okay.
but thank you for reminding us. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Doc Al.
yes.
But maybe there are also
It's
others.
okay.
From other,
It's okay for me. How about others? No, not
yeah.
Sige.
What about the others? Like maybe Myanmar will
Kaon-kaon
say
lang mo diya.
something. Yeah. And
Yes, in
Cambodia.
Myanmar, we have only 10:30 a.m. Just only 10:30 a.m. Yes.
10:30 in Myanmar.
Yeah.
What about in Cambodia?
Cambodia have the same time as us.
Same time.
Same
Same time as
time
in
with
Vietnam.
us. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do we have other thoughts and insights from our dear participants? Thank you for the time. Yeah. See. Mr. Fat,
Yes.
do we have more
No,
questions?
currently we don't have any more questions.
Okay.
So I would like to suggest to call off our session today.
Okay. So thank you so much for your participation. Truly, I am delighted of our sharing. And I would like to happen this really again and again. This is, as I said, a very kind of informal conversation. So just feel free. We are all one in our journey. We are one in our journey. So
with, I guess we have already finished our presentation, our session for today. And once again, I would like to thank all our participants for spending your precious time with us. I know you have your own appointments and schedules, but you dare to come and join us. Thank you so much, Philippines. Thank you so much, Cambodia.
In behalf of Opal Community
Thank you so
College,
much,
I would like to
Myanmar,
thank
and
I
all
would
of
Yes,
like to
thank you,
thank
madam.
Simeo, Retract, Vietnam. Thank you so much. So again, we still need your support in our academic development, teacher development in the future. So we are always ready, Dr. Anita, to be invited.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alma Guria, the Vice President for Academic Affairs in Opal College.
We
Thank
have
you for
our
joining.
president here, Dr. Arao. She's
Dr.
present.
Dr.
Dolorita
Arao.
Arao. Yeah, she's here with
Oh,
us.
really? Thank you so much, Dr. Arao, for joining us. I really don't have idea you are with us now. I really appreciate so much for
Thank
your
you.
pool
So,
of teachers and
in behalf of
top leaders.
OCC, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vietnam.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So before we close our session today, I would like to remind you to complete the assignment and submit it before Saturday next week, October the 9th. And in order to get your certificate of completion, and your name on the assignment will be the one used in your certificate of completion. So please input it in carefully. And because we cannot reissue the certificate. Again, we will email you once the date and the time of the next sessions, once they are confirmed. And we will send you the Zoom link 2 or 3 days before, just like the usual. And kindly share this free program with your college and network so that it can make greater impacts to the region education as a whole. We look forward to meeting you again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Once more.
Oh, okay. Excuse me, Mr. Pat.
Yes.
Okay, where can we find our topic for the assignment? You will email us or what?
Yes, we will. So please type your email into the chat box. And once we collect all the emails, we will email you the PPTs of today's sessions as well as the assignment link.
Oh, you have a new hairstyle today. Yeah. Looks very nice.
Thank you. It's just too long. I have been home for 3 months now. And so this is a long hair version of me. Yeah, thank you for joining us. We really wish to see you again next month, hopefully.